Welcome to the introduction to web development. Within these, we have 5 chapters where we'll be learning about web pages and website. Then we'll be learning about client side versus server side, followed by a brief knowledge about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then we'll be learning about what exactly ReactJS is and ending with the environment that ReactJS works with. So let's start with the first chapter. The first chapter, Introduction to Web Pages and Website. So what exactly is a web page? So a web page can be said to be a single-most document that's displayed on a web browser. And what exactly is web browser? Web browser is something that a client, which is the user who uses the web, uses the web browser to access a website. That's what a web browser is. For example, on the right here, we have this GIF where there are a desktop, a mobile, and an iPad. All of these uses a web browser. All of the web browsers are made up of web pages if you're visiting that website. So a web server is a computer on which a website is hosted. This is the server side. Suppose you're using a YouTube website, then there would be a server on the side of the server side where they will be hosting the YouTube website through which you will be accessing it. I'll come back to that in the next chapter, but for what you need to know, that web pages are stored on these servers and they can be viewed by using the web browser that we have. A web page can contain graphics, text, image, video, audio, and hyperlinks. So what are hyperlinks? Hyperlinks are web page links which link one web page to another one. We see hyperlinks almost every day when we browse the web. There are types in web pages. One of such is static web page. So what is static web page? So static web page is such that the content which exists within this web page, like I said before, that text, image, and video and audio, a static web page would contain all of that. But the content of the page is same every time it's loaded, even if it's loaded on a different browser by different users. A person using a static web page, suppose in the eastern part of the world, will see the same content that a person on the west part of the world would see. So content remains the same and it can only be changed if the client publishes and updates the file connected to the server. Such kind of web page, they don't really interact with the database. For example, you can check out any blog that a person writes or any documentation sites. Suppose the reactjs.org, which would give you information about how ReactJS works. That documentation site will be same for any user and any web browser throughout the world. There's another type of web page. It's called as dynamic web page. So what exactly is a dynamic web page, you might ask? So a dynamic web page is such a kind of page where the content of the page keeps on changing whenever it's refreshed. This kind of web page is suited for users who have their preferential needs. It produces different code for every new request. This needs to interact with the database because for every user, different kind of data exists. And it takes into the consideration that user wants to see something different compared to another user elsewhere. And that's why dynamic web pages are very important. So it takes server-side scripting arguments that affect the content of the web page each time it's loaded. The server is made up in such a way that it would take into consideration the user's data and would give the user different kind of web page every time they ask for it. We make use of technologies like PHP, .NET, or ASP for this. There is an interaction with database as seen in this picture here. The dynamic websites require a database server, unlike the static websites. Now let's go on to the next chapter here, which is client side versus server side. Client side. So as I explained before, clients are people who have business with. That's what generally client means. So in the context of a web, clients are typical web users, phone, our computer, our iPads. That's what the client would refer to. And web browsers are the software on those devices. We can also call this the front end of the web. This is what users want to see. And this is the side that people in the backend work for and front end design this. Client side makes use of HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, and it can be a static as well as a dynamic website. the client part sends request to the server asking for information. That's how client side works. Now there's the server side, which is the opposite side of the client. This is where computers that store web pages, sites, and apps. When a client device wants to access a web page, a copy of that web page is downloaded from the server onto the client device. This is displayed on the user's web browser, and this is also called as the backend. This is how the backend is done, and it's done using Node.js, PHP, Python, Java. That's the technology that is used here. You can create the server side such a way you can tailor the user experience here. That's how the server side is important. Now let's go on to the next one, which is the basic trinity of the web page. This is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's talk about HTML first. So HTML, what does it stand for? It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So what does that mean now? Hypertext Markup Language, or HTML, is named because it's a combination of markup language and hypertext. I explained before that hypertext is the link between multiple web pages. That's what hypertext means. Markup language is used to design the web page. So now you see HTML does two things. It has a link between web pages and it also designs the web page. You can create the structure of the web page using this language. You can define the text document within tag. I'll come to that. That explains the web page structure. The browser can use this markup language to manipulate images, text, graphics, or any other kind of description that needs to be displayed in the needed format. HTML provides structure for web page and control the layout of the content. This is something to be known. HTML, how it works? So it has something known as a tree structure. So what's a tree structure? Literally, trees like as a root, as branches and leaves. That's how tree structure is like. And just like that, HTML is scripted in the way. It's all about tags here. Tags are like the most basic unit of HTML web. So tags, what do? Tags give you information to the browser, okay? Meaning each tag has a predefined display information. Every tag is important here. So for example, on the right, the tree structure, you have the head title, right? That contains the title. Before that, you have the HTML tag. This is known as a root element. And we have two child elements, head and body. Now within that, we have the head tag, which contains the title. That would mean if you're typing a paragraph, there would be a title to that paragraph and it would be written right here in the title. Now within the body, there are more tags, H1 and again H1. You can even have H2, H3. So 1, 2, 3 means the change in the size here. That's what the H1 and H2 means. H1, H2, H3 tags. These are like different font sizes. That's what they mean. There's also something known as a P tag, currently not here, but that would mean the paragraph tag. That's where you write the data. That's where you put the content that you want to display. And it's to be known that HTML is not a case sensitive language. That's what HTML is, and that's what you're supposed to know. Now let's get into the CSS. What is CSS? So that stands for Cascading Style Sheet. So what is that? So it is a language to style the web. Look at the right. You have HTML, which gives the structure of the web page. CSS, that would give you the design and clothing, the features of the web page. Look at the skeleton and look at the human. That's what HTML and CSS can do together. Pretty powerful for making the web beautiful. That's what CSS is. So it's very simple to alter the appearance and layout of the web page using this. Moreover, you can also control how a website will come on different screens. Suppose you're using a mobile or on desktop or on iPad. There are different ways to design it. Think about YouTube, how different that is on the web and how different that is on the cell phone. Adjusting the font size and colors and whatnot. You can do a lot with that. Now, just imagine a web page without styling. It would be just bold, plain, blank, black colored text. That will look awful and it wouldn't look beautiful at all. That's why you need CSS. Cascading style sheets beautify your web page. And that's the power of HTML and CSS for web development. Now let's come back to the nervous system of web page. For in the previous one, you had the skeletal, which is decided by the HTML, the style, the color, the font, the design, which is done by CSS. Now you need to do what's left, which is how the entire system works. In the human body example we had previously, JavaScript would play the part of a nervous system, how each part of the body connects to the other, what it does, how it affects when you touch the hand, and how the entire system works. JavaScript is used for that. So JavaScript, which is a programming language used commonly as part of creating web pages, whose implementation allows client-side script to interact with the user and make dynamic pages. So a bit history about JavaScript. Initially we called it LiveScript in the 1990s, but Netscape, which changed its name to JavaScript. So it's something called as a client-side scripting language, which we discussed earlier. So which means that the source code is generated by client's browser, not on the web server. Let's take an example. Assume that you submit a form, or any other user submits a form on, assume it's a Google form, yeah? So every time you do that, JavaScript is executed. And how? Let me give you an example that when you type a form and there's a field which you have to frame and it only contains numbers, and suppose you type characters. So that's an invalid, right? That's an invalid choice that you're making. So JavaScript would get executed then and there. It's used to capture such event and respond. It would tell you that this is an invalid entry. So JavaScript can be used for such things. It can be used to capture user-initiated event like clicking on the buttons and link navigation and other actions that user would perform when they go on the website. You can do a lot with JavaScript. It's pretty powerful. Now let's come to the syntax of it. Like I told you, it's JavaScript provides a nervous system to the human body. If the CSS is style and HTML is the structure. So let's have a look at the syntax here. Here, HTML, which is the root, and the body, which contains the metadata, which is the content that you want to display, has a script tag here. The script tag is supposed to contain what you want to show. This is code. So document.write. Welcome to ReactJS training. This is the thing that you want to display. What document.write does here is it just prints the message, which is React.js. The output of this would be welcome to ReactJS training. That's what basic syntax of JavaScript would look like. Now, the main part of the training, what we'll be learning here, it's ReactJS. What is exactly React and why JS? So JS stands for JavaScript here, just so you know. So ReactJS is a web-based JavaScript technology or even library, can be called multiple things, that creates interactive elements in the website. So a bit history about ReactJS. It was developed by Facebook, and it was developed using a Facebook engineer, which person used it for handling the view layer on the mobile or web application for the front-end web development. And it's used for building user interface efficiently using the code that we just showed you. It allows us to build reusable UI component, which I'll come to that. And the engineer who created this was known as Jordan Walkie, who worked in Facebook in 2011. And the first time that we saw React being used was in 2012. And it was in Facebook's news feed. And later on, it went to the Instagram in 2012. Now, before I tell you what can React do, why is it called React? That's something you might be thinking about, right? So React reacts to the state change of component. That's what it means. Reacting to anything that you click, and that would be seen because of ReactJS. Suppose you click a link and the web page will react and take you to the new browser. So that's what React does. That's why React is named as ReactJS. So we have some examples to give out here. Here we have an image telling you about the advantages of React. So seamless update, one of the strongest advantages of React, where you can create large-scale application using React without reloading the page every time. So data is reflected here in real time. That's what React does the best. The benefits of React is a lot, but I'll just name a few, like reusability of code components. You write code for certain part of the program, and you can reuse that elsewhere in the program. Ease of use, since it's better than other open source. It also works on iOS and Android device, and it's fast when debugging and rendering. Selling points of React is that it can also render on server using Node. It can using its framework called React Native. So let me give you an example of this. Suppose if you post a picture on Facebook, okay? Now you go and like the image. Then you're checking out the comments to see what people the picture. Now, while you're doing this, the browser count has increased. Suppose it has increased by 100. Now, since you like the picture, even without reloading the page, you saw less counts, but went ahead and saw the comments. In some time, like count increased by 100. I'm updating of like count done by React. That's a magical inch that React brings. Suppose if you want the reusability of code components video about, it told by an example of Twitter. If you want to build a website like Twitter, you can page the main page of Twitter. When you open it, you can split that into a navigation bar, type what you want to search. You can create a profile bar, or trends, or feed. These are different components in the web page. All these components can include more components, like feed can be in tweets, likes, repost. Yeah, you can all build a component to create other components, a component within a component, a big part of the website. The power of the React reusable components. Now we have talked about what React is. Now let's develop React, but before that you need to set up React within your system. And you can do that using NPM. NPM, which stands for Node Package Manager, it's a technology using the Node.js. So Node.js is a technology that people use, programmers use to code within the system. Before code couldn't be written outside the browser, but Node.js changed that, and now you can do it within your system. So let's get started with how we can set up the environment for Node, ReactJS, using the Node Package Manager. You can go to this web called nodejs.org/en-download, and there you can install the Windows installer if you're a Windows person, or a Mac if it's Mac. You can download this. This might take you some time, and then you need to click on the application. Now, when you have finished downloading, you can open the application and it shows up this. You can start running it. Then you can press the next for the setup wizard and agree to the license agreement. Next, go ahead and create the folder and the runtime. Make no changes. Just support this automatically install necessary tools. Go ahead and start installing this. It is installing, can take you some time to download. Now I have finished setting this wizard up. Now I can finish it. For that, now the npm comes up. Close this, and next step would be open and prompt. This is where we'll be working with the environment setup. So when you open the command prompt, by typing cmd in the search bar, type mkdir command to create a new directory, and we'll name it as React Demo. Okay, yeah, it already exists within my system. That's good. Now, if it doesn't exist in your system, you need to create it. The next step would be to move into a created directory. Okay, for that we move into already existing React Demo directory. React Demo. Now we are within the directory that has been created. Now, after opening that React Demo, we'll need to install this. For that, type npm space install space -g space create -react -app. Make sure you type it properly. Press enter. Okay, it will do this. It will take some time to do this. Oh, it's done already. Next step, would be to go ahead with the environment application. For that, we'll be creating this React app called as my app. So just go along and type create dash React dash app space my underscore app. Okay, not my dash app, my underscore app. Press enter, and now we are creating my app. This might take you some time, so I'll just cut short this. So it's done. It took more than a minute for me. Might take less, more for you. The next step would be to go inside this. For that, CD. Remember, CD is for going inside the folder. Underscore my app. Okay, we are inside our my app. Now we need to start this. For that, npm start. This is the final one. Press enter. Then it shows up React dash script start. Finally, the local host would open up. Now when that opens up, this is what you're going to see within the default browser. So edit src-app.js and save to reload. Learn React. Add the local host ;3000. That's the final step of this training module 1. We have a lot to go ahead with. See you in the next module.